Y'all can see the clouds. If this works, I'll post it. If not, we'll do it again when there's more light. Anyway, what's today's video discussion going to be about? Simply put, what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine today's quick 2-minute demonstration with my philosophy behind growing the Back to Eden way. And you're going to see here behind me, I'm in my mature garden. This particular garden is 13 years old. It's been around the block a few times, and I'll give you a brief backstory on it. The land itself is sloped. It has a slight gradient to it from up top behind me to the bottom where I am here. So rains will saturate the wood chips. Once the wood chips reach their maximum capacity for water holding and retention, then they start to block the moisture that falls from the sky, and it rolls downhill, gently cascading into a windrow that I have here that protects me on that front. Okay, so that being said, I subscribe to the deep mulch method, which is really like Paul's orchard method, where he has a very, very deep layer of wood chips that he put down many years ago. I believe since then he's added more to the top, and he's, if I'm not mistaken, even growing some potatoes in there. So kudos to Paul for showing me the way. In my case, my native earth is restrictive. If I could show you the ground right now, you'd see lots of Bermuda grass and lots of weeds. And, well, it's a mixture of weeds, Bermuda grass, and some other things like clover. And we really like the clover. We're glad it's here. Got some dandelion, got some other things, some other native species of plants that grow here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. And we're more than happy to have them here. But inside and within my gardens, where I work to grow food for my family, really don't want as much competition. So we put down lots of wood chips. 13 years ago when we built this garden, I put down as many wood chips as I had. As time went by, I put more wood chips down every single fall. In my mind, that was what I believed was the method. Whether or not it's wrong or slightly incorrect, it's of no consequence, because the argument doesn't exist to not do it the way I had to do it. In my case, because the red clay was restrictive and we had a hard time growing food crops in it, we simply wanted to cover it deeply and allow what we covered it to break down into compost. So now what you see is one giant sheet of compost behind me. Okay, when I move over, what we're going to do today is we're actually going to pare some of the soil away from the edge of a living plant. I'm going to pare it away from the edge of a living plant that I've been told people have a hard time growing. This particular plant doesn't have a hard time growing here for me. So for whatever reason, my adherence to a fall application of wood chips, and sometimes as well a spring application of fresher wood chips with leaves, has consistently led to the production and the increased soil depth above the red clay. We're not putting plants' roots in the red clay. I put tree roots and bush roots and shrub roots in the red clay, but not my annular plants. And most of my perennial plants, they're in the wood chip compost as well. So I'm going to turn around here without further ado, and I'm going to pull some of the soil away from the edge of an onion plant, and y'all are going to get to see what it looks like. You're going to get to see how a really, really deep bed of soil, wood chips, compost, supports the plant's growth more than sufficiently. We grow thousands of these onions here, folks. I mean, at last count, it was more than I could count. I don't really have any trouble doing it, so we're going to continue to do it that way. So here we go. Let's turn around. Let's hope the camera follows us. Let's hope the rain doesn't drop on my head. Hopefully the Father's got my intent at heart, and he's going to allow this to get through. I'll do my best. Okay, folks? I realize it's a little dark. I'm hoping the audio is decent. This is what we have to work with today. Okay. And in the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you closer, and you'll get to see much closer what it looks like. But for now, I'm just going to draw your attention over here to this particular onion plant. Okay. This particular onion plant is in about, well, how deep is the soil? Check this out. Soil depth. Dump the water out of it so I don't get soaking wet. Soil depth, okay? This is how much soil is in place right here. See the little green rubber band? All I did was push this pinched end of 3/4 inch EMT into the ground, into the wood chips, into the compost, and then I slid this little green rubber band down to indicate the top. So this particular onion set is growing in this deep soil. So what would we expect to see? Would we expect to see its roots go all the way down into the red clay below? I mean, folks, the red clay has been covered by this healing elixir of wood chips and compost tea for 13 years. Why wouldn't they go into the dirt? Why wouldn't they grow down there? Spoiler alert, folks. They use the media that is most compliant to satiate their needs and allow them to grow vigorously. And that's all. Oftentimes, when they get to that interface between the composted wood chips and the native earth below, the roots just simply turn sideways and they continue to grow in the softest possible media. All of this media is made of carbon, and so too are the plants. So, I mean, the plants, they're not really rocks. While they do take some of the mineral content from the native earth below into them and from the wood chips, that's mostly a matter of the fact that worms and other things are mining them from the native earth. And they're bringing it up higher into the soil column. And the plants love it. They eat it up. They lap it up. But I'm not out here spreading minerals and rocks and adding rock dust and nonsense to this stuff. And it's not impeding the growth of my plants. None of them. So now let's see what that constitution looks like. Right? Here you have something that I like to use. It's a 4-way soil tester. I can test for light, moisture, sort of nutrients, and pH. The most important part of this tester is light and moisture, okay? The pH is going to be managed by soil microbes if you let them live and don't kill them. And the nutrients are going to essentially go up as time passes, even if you don't put fertilizer in here. If you follow the Back to Eden method and you're utilizing composts and manures and things like that, properly made composts, you're not going to have any problem regenerating the energy within the beds, okay? That particular compost, whether you use it as a thin layer over the top and then cover it with a protective layer of wood chips, is going to continue to enrich the soils, not just with nutrients, but also with the biology that cycles the nutrients to the plants. They're already in there from when it was composted. That's why it's such a great idea. So let's go ahead and let's dig this away. We're going to excavate it away. I'm just going to reach over here and grab this little shovelly thing and start to pull some of the coarse cover down the hill. Okay. There's more, again, right now, I could say that this is mycology. I could say that it's actinobacteria. It doesn't matter. It's working for the common good of the soil, okay? Make sense? So let's put it back. I don't want to separate it from the garden too much. Just want it to be here. And now I'm going to start to pare this down even further. At some point, what's going to happen is we're going to start to see the roots. We're going to start to see the soil, the denser soil, emerge. And it's going to make it so much more apparent that this deep method of applying mulch, and by the way, y'all see me just digging down here with this little shovel, there's nothing to it, okay? I'm already at the roots of the onion, and I'm going to pull one to show you. Hopefully you can see it. Maybe if I put my hand behind it, you can see that it's pure white. Yes, hopefully yes, pure white. It was severed when I was digging, not a big deal, there's plenty more. We'll throw it back over there. Let's get back to it. At some point, what's going to happen is I'm going to get all the way down to where it's nothing but rich humus. Humus is what compost becomes when it's tired of being compost. Humus is what compost becomes when it's basically done being composted. Humus is wonderful for your plants. Humus is wonderful for these onions. I'm not even all the way to the bottom of the bed, and you can already see the profound change in the constitution of the wood chips. So there's no dirt in this. I didn't go to Lowe's and buy a whole bunch of black cow and nasty stuff that's inside plastic bags, growing anaerobic organisms in it by the day. You know, the stuff is sitting underneath those awnings. Water enters those bags of commercial soils and stays in them. When it does, the soil becomes anaerobic. And when you use it in your garden, its first expression will be to make the garden sick. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what we have after we've dug the soil out. And starting with the soil, I've got a nice blob of humus. This is really, really rich. There's some roots in it. Not sure if you'll pick them up with the camera. And this is from about here, which is beneath the coarsest cover of wood chips. In this example, the coarsest cover of wood chips is about 2 inches, and then it gradually reduces to, well, over the course of 4 inches, into this. Over time, this gets more condensely packed, becomes more viable as a growing solution, growing medium, and the plants love it. We'll get a little bit further into it, and you start to see a mixture of the clay from below, because it's being brought up by the soil organisms, and the humic material from up above. All right? So there you have it. You can see in here we have some roots from the onions as well. And then you get down into the dirt itself. This is the clay that I scraped up from the bottom as best as I could. It's lighter in color. It's still very, very dense. It has lots of moisture in it right now. And as far as I can tell, like I said, when the roots hit the bottom, they kind of go sideways. The density is greater than what's above. So the roots are always going to take the path of least resistance. And if there is a wealth of nutrients that's in the humic matter that sits above the dirt, the plant roots aren't really going to go much further. Okay? That's just a simple fact. Every time I do this, and I do this pretty much every year, we find the same thing. So, okay. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take the camera closer. I'm going to show you the soil section. You'll be able to see plenty of activity from the fungi that we showed before. You'll be able to see the roots. The white roots go all the way down towards the top of the clay, and then they essentially terminate. So this particular depth, I would say I can estimate to be about 16 inches. And over the years, it has continued to get better and better and better and better. We have no qualms about this area in our garden. Everything we put in here, whatever seed it is, it grows. I grow tomatoes here. I've grown cucumbers here. We've grown all of your favorite plants. And they really, really love this stuff. And the truth is that we really don't have to water down here as much at the base of the garden, because the moisture comes from up above, it covers the entire garden, and then gravity works the moisture down the gradient in the soil. If I had holes or pockets in the native earth below my garden, moisture would actually gather in those areas, and we would end up with anaerobic pockets where growth was more difficult above it. So it's important to note that when this garden was made, we cut the grass really, really low and flattened it out. And, oh, yeah, not true at all. This little message is for Charlie Coker, actually. When this garden was first made, I tilled it. So I really have a good grasp as to the efficiency difference between a tilled garden and an untilled garden. I didn't know. Back in the day, that's all we used to do, was till and soften the clay and then try to grow plants in it. And it gradually would grow more and more restrictive over time. As it would rain, the rain would land on it and compact the clay even harder and harder and harder. And then as the rain evaporated out of the soils, because there was no cover on it, it would just evaporate. That particular clay turned into concrete. So yes, truth and disclosure, this garden started as a tilled bed. And then immediately after understanding the principles behind the Back to Eden method, we never tilled again. So the other gardens that are beyond here, none of them were tilled. All of those gardens got to this point faster than this garden. As I gained an experience, I went from using the toxic cardboard that blocks the gas exchange to using builder's craft to using nothing. In my most recent builds down there, where I now have we're going into our 4th year with our large vineyard. It's basically just a gigantic garden. We didn't use any cardboard, no layer 1, no underlayment, no nothing. And we went right over the top of the Bermuda grass with about 12 to 16 inches of wood chips. I battled a small section on one of the hillsides for 2 or 3 years. One of these days I'll get around to showing you how we won that battle. And ever since, it's been cleared. So let's cut this shorter because I'm wasting too much of your time. I'm going to turn you around. We're going to have a look at this, okay? And you can make your own decisions as to whether or not you think 16, 18, 24 inches of wood chips is going to become what you need to grow your food in. I can tell you this right now. Everything that you want to grow will grow like this. Orchard style BTE. It works. One last thing before I go. The algorithm needs to know that you guys appreciate the content that I'm building for you. Oftentimes, I utilize the discussions in the Back to Eden Method group to come up with ideas for making videos. So I'm wholly reliant on all of you to kind of guide me in the right direction, so I can provide you with the level of information that you need to move through the processes with confidence. Folks, the one thing that works for me the most is I'm super confident. And I'm super confident because I know it works. Okay? So do me a favor, click the like, it's down there somewhere. Click the subscribe, it's the little icon with the onions on it. And then if there's a bell to ring that says you'll get notifications about when we're making videos, ring it so that you get notifications when we make videos. I'm also in the process of working with Carol and Paul Gauchi together on a project, the live project that hopefully all of you are going to catch. And I just want to remind you that we need y'all to tune in Mondays, get involved, ask questions, ask me the same questions, ask Paul questions, ask the other speakers, any of the guest speakers. I promise Paul and Carol, they're only going to have quality guest speakers on their show, because this also means the world to them, and to share to you in this way it's something that we can do because we now have enough collective information and experience to do it in a comprehensive way. And the live sessions are important, not just for us, not just for the Gauchis, but for, well, pretty much everyone out there that's hoping to get away from growing the hard way. Let's look at some soil. You can see the clay down at the bottom, a little oak leaf there. And then you can see all of the wood chips have broken down into that rich, rich humus. And as we go further and further up the column, they get coarser and coarser and coarser. And eventually, you get to your onion plant. And it just works, folks. It works. Peace.